Now that we've got our data in the form of tensors, more specifically batches of images in the form of tensors and labels in the form of tensors, we can go back to our little workflow. Let's clean up our notebook a little bit. And we can visualize what's happening with our data batches. Let's go check out our workflow. Boom. We've done step 1, get data ready, turning into tensors. And now this has taken a fairly long time to get to, but this is what I want you to remember is that if we go here, what are we focused on? A lot of our time is spent lining up our inputs with our outputs to make sure that they're consistent with a machine learning algorithm. So we want to input something, in our case, our photos of dogs with their labels in the form of tensors into a machine learning algorithm. And then we want it to output some sort of learned patterns so that we can make predictions on more images over here. Fit the model to the data, make prediction, and then evaluate them and improve and save our model later on. So this is where we're up to now. Picking a model from TensorFlow Hub to suit our problem, aka our machine learning algorithm that is already implemented. Let's create a little section for doing that. Let's go. This is called building a model. There's a few things we need to define, and that is what we've just seen here. The input shape of our images in the form of tensors to our model. We need the output shape, aka the image labels in the form of tensors of our model. And the URL of the model we want to use. And you might be wondering, URL, that's interesting. Well, this is where we're going to find out what TensorFlow Hub is. So let's write this down, what we need. We go, before we build a model. Now, I want to also stress that in machine learning and deep learning and TensorFlow in particular, there is 1,000 ways to skin a cat, pun the pun. We're using dogs as our classifying problem. This is only one way of how you can build a deep learning model. And we're going to utilize transfer learning. So rather than building a model from scratch, we're going to take what an existing model has already learned and apply it to our problem, which saves us on energy in terms of training a model could take a long time, costs because training a machine learning model isn't free. And then once we've found some baseline results, we can try and improve them from there. So before we build a model, there are a few things we need to define. One is the input shape, our images shape in the form of tensors to our model, and the output shape, image labels in the form of tensors of our model, the URL of the model we want to use. And we'll turn this into Markdown. Wonderful. These three things, maybe not the URL. You might build a model from scratch, but we're using a URL so that we can get started experimenting as quick as possible. These three things will be standard practice with almost whatever machine learning model you use. Defining the inputs, defining the outputs, and defining the model. And because we're using TensorFlow, everything will be in the form of tensors. Set up input shape to the model. And now I'm going to define this as what it is, and then we'll figure out where these come from in a second. But I want you to have a think about what this might be. So where have we seen none, image size 3 before? If we go here, remember what image size is? 224. So if we come up, remember how we checked the shape of our data batch? None, 224, 224, 3. Well, that is the input shape of our image. And we've got batch, height, width, color channels. Wonderful. And now we want to set up the output shape of our model. If we want our model to predict labels, what might our output shape be? How many different labels do we have? So let's go len unique breeds 120. So we could just put that as 120, but what we might do is just write this in code. So that's the output shape of our model. So we want it to input an image, find some patterns in that image, and then if we fed it an image in the future, one it hasn't seen before, we'd like it to find patterns in that image, and then output, after it's learned some patterns, output an array of length unique labels, which hopefully contains the correct label of what dog breed is in that image. And now here's where we're going to go set up model URL from TensorFlow Hub. Equals. What might this be? I want you, before we get to the next video, I'm going to go through it in the next video, is to go through TensorFlow Hub and just have a play around, just have an explore and see if you can think about the problem that we're working on. We're doing multi-class image classification. Think about that and see what you can find knowing that by just Googling TensorFlow Hub and knowing our problem domain. What information can you find out from TensorFlow Hub? Because that's exactly what we're going to be doing in the next video. So have a try yourself and I'll see you soon.